They are dismantling the sleeping middle class. More and more people are becoming poor. We are their cattle. We are being bred for slavery. The revolution.
Not again.
We cannot break their signal. Our transmitter is not powerful enough. The signal must be shut off at the source. We have...
Daddy, I have a headache.
Me too, honey. Can somebody please explain to me what the hell that's all about?
Just that idiot licking his nuts again.
And you've always thought you couldn't hair press on nails because of all the active things you do? Well, if you're ready for beautiful, natural-looking, easy-to-apply nails, pre-colored in 7 luscious hues, just...
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep.
Oh, goddamned hacker, that second time night that asshole's cut in.
The movement was begun 8 months ago by a small group of scientists who discovered, quite by accident, these signals being sent through...
It's giving me a headache.
Yeah, tell me about it. Must took the hackers months to figure out how to do this.
The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. They have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices. Their intention to rule rests with the annihilation of consciousness. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. We Please understand, they are safe as long as they are not discovered. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated.
They're pulling the water out of the sand like sponges.
Blow it out your ass.
Human. They've been told that we're commies trying to bring down the government. And some of them are being recruited. Creatures are trading wealth, power.
You mean people are joining up with them?
Most of us just sell out right away. Then all of a sudden we get promoted. Our bank accounts get bigger. We start buying new houses, cars. Perfect, isn't it? We'll do anything to be rich.
Look around the environment we live in. Carbon dioxide, fluorocarbons, and methane have increased since 1958. Earth is being acclimatized. They are turning our atmosphere into their atmosphere.
What do these things want, and why are they here?
It's in their best interests. They're free enterprisers. The Earth is just another developing planet. Their third world.
We are like
of trace gas here in central Mexico, Ecuador, Brazil. Look, you can see for yourself.
700% increase over the last 5 years? How can that be?
My very question, just how accurate is this data you sent us, Ilana?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, we cobbled it together from ground stations, weather balloons, Uncle Earl's aching corns. Some of your own numbers are in there.
No satellite data?
Nasa's bird has a bum wing.
Well, you've obviously got some ratty data.
We checked this as best we could. George, run me a future cast, will you? Say, 10 years assuming the same increase.
Of course.
Well, this had better be wrong. Because according to this, we're looking at an increase of 12 degrees centigrade over the next decade. And that's just...
Catastrophic.
Well, I was going to say impossible, but yep, that too.
Central Mexico.
They built these megastructures that spew methane, manufacturing their atmosphere. They've sown their crops, snuffing out our plant life, raising the global temperature, causing our cities to flood. They waged war on Earth. They set fire to our forests. It's already hard to breathe. Impossible to breathe if you are close to the stacks. Rats. Insects. Humans.
This year's theme for Earth Day is Protect Our Species. Rising temperatures and weather fluctuations are putting millions of species at risk of extinction, while others are being forced to migrate to other habitats. Last October, the CBSN Originals team investigated invasive species. They are non-native organisms which enter an ecosystem and cause harm. Here's a clip from the documentary Burmese Python Invasion: Fighting Invasive Species.
This is where I was telling you where I catch pythons here, and there's houses here. So people live right across the canal. Python, right there, right there. Right there. All right, we got him, we got him. Python, finally! This guy is probably only about 2 years old.
2 years old and he's this big.
Yeah, so there's really not that much that's gonna eat him. There's no birds. No raccoons, nothing to predate on him except alligators at this stage. 2 years old.
The strength of this is incredible.
Another year and he'll be able to breed, and you know, when they get to be 18 feet, they can have over 100 eggs in them.
You think the Burmese python can be stopped?
Stopped from progressing north? I hope so. That's what we're trying to do.
As their food supply in the Everglades dwindles, these snakes are on the move. And experts say climate change is further expanding the python's habitat.
Great.
So on to the next one.
Only 2 years old and already such a big snake there. CBSN Originals supervising producer Matt Morrison is here with me on set. Matt, welcome. What a fascinating documentary. Of course, the python is not native to the Florida Everglades, correct? Nope. Which is why it's an invasive species. What kinds of problems is the python creating, or other invasive species creating?
Sure. Well, the python in the Everglades, it is native to Southeast Asia, so it doesn't have the kind of predators in the Everglades that it has in Southeast Asia, and so it's able to kind of run rampant there. They grow pretty quickly, and once they grow to even adolescent size, like the one Adam had coiled around his arm in that dock, they can decimate a species there. In the Everglades specifically, since it was introduced a couple decades ago, 99% of rabbits, fox, possum, raccoons have been wiped out completely.
Because of the Burmese python?
Specifically because of the Burmese python.
It has no natural predator, as she pointed out, other than the alligator. And that's not enough.
Right, and once they reach full size, which can be up to 200 pounds, around 20 feet long, even an alligator is going to have a very tough time with the Burmese python.
So this is scary stuff. It's clearly a problem. It's not just the Burmese python. Where else in the world are we seeing invasive species cause problems in non-native ecosystems?
I mean, it's a global problem, honestly. Since 1500, it's estimated that up to 1/3 of all species in the world that have gone extinct have been due to invasive species. So invasive species are not just animals, they're plants as well.
Right.
Kudzu is a famous plant that has been sort of decimating the South that was brought in as basically decoration for porches and things like that, and it's really taken over.
So you point out it was brought in as decoration for porches. So people, we had a hand in this.
Absolutely.
With the python, people buy them as pets. They get a little too big and scary, and they just release them into the wild.
Yep.
So how much of this problem is being caused by people, and how much of it is being caused by climate change?
Climate change really exacerbates the problem. So in the case of the Burmese python, for instance, as climates get warmer, as flooding increases and things like that, as wet, warm climate or area in the United States increases, then the Burmese python's territory gets larger.
Right. But they got there in the first place because of humans just releasing them into the wild.
Yes, and in some cases, people bring in these species for the benefit of the economy or what have you. Asian carp in the Mississippi River Basin, for instance, was brought in to help with catfish ponds and catfish farms. Floodwaters actually displaced it into natural waterways, and where it just completely took over.
So what else can be done? I mean, here we see that pretty tough python hunter there, and she found a little python. Other than people going out and literally trying to find these invasive species, and what do? They collect them and give them to the... What do they do with them when they collect these invasive species?
Well, often they terminate them.
Okay, all right.
Often, and they've tried to put a ban. For instance, in the case of the Burmese python, Florida has banned the import of that snake.
Right.
If you have one, if you acquired it before July 1st, 2010, you are allowed to keep it. It's sort of grandfathered in. They do live almost 20, in some cases 25 years. So that's not that comforting, but yes, they try to ban them, they try to eradicate them. The reality, though, is with invasive species that once they work their way into an ecosystem, it is almost impossible to get them out.
So, one or two python hunters or invasive species hunters are really not going to move the needle.
No, Florida has about 24 as part of their contractor program, which Donna Khalil is part of. They have also kind of put open season on Burmese python, so if one makes its way into your backyard, if you're brave enough, you can go ahead and take it out. But yeah, and there's a big movement actually in the case of the lionfish and in the Asian carp to make it to create a market for it and make it so that you can sell it in grocery stores and things like that. Burmese python, that's not going to work. They're very high in mercury, so you could eat them a little bit. Adam actually does in the doc, so I encourage people to check that out. It's a fun scene. But,
a bite is okay, perhaps.
Yeah,
but so other than that, a few places having invasive species hunters and allowing people to sort of become hunters on their own, if you will. Do you think that there needs to be more education? People need to be more aware of the problem so that they don't become a part of the problem?
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think by and large, the idea that, if I'm just one person and I have this one exotic animal or whatever, and I can't take care of it anymore, or I'm moving or whatever the case may be, and you just decide, I'm going to let it loose, what's one animal going to do? Probably another animal will get it in short order. That's not a responsible thing to do, particularly with species, again, that are not native to the area. Get in touch with the local zoo or whatever, and they probably will have some good thoughts for you. But in general,
there's a better solution than releasing it to the wild.
Don't introduce it into an
We don't need any more. How many, do you roughly know how many invasive species there are now in the U.S.? I mean, there must be
thousands.
Thousands.
Because it's anything from an animal to a plant to organisms like fungi and things like that.
Right.
So anything that can that's non-native to an ecosystem and can do harm. Economic harm, ecological harm to human health is the way that agriculture depends.
Scary stuff, and thank you for shedding light on it.
My pleasure.
Spreading the word.
Happy
Thanks so
Earth
much,
Day.
Matt. Yes, exactly. Happy Earth Day to you, too. And you can watch the full CBSN Originals Burmese Python Invasion on CBSNews.com.